Continuation of that Bernoulli's theorem applications. So this is a blood flow and a heart attack. So if you take the artery that is going from heart, so whenever the plaque is accumulated inside this artery, generally for a healthy human, so the blood flows in this direction. So this is a streamlined flow. So this is not turbulent flow. But whenever some plaque is accumulated in the artery, so here you can see the area of cross section through which the blood is flowing will decrease. Whenever area decreases, the velocity will increase here. So whenever this velocity increases, we know that from Bernoulli's theorem, P plus half rho V square plus rho G H is always constant. So whenever velocity increases, the pressure energy always decreases. That means the pressure here will decrease. Here the external parts will have some pressure. This is pressure due to external parts, and the pressure inside the artery, this is pressure inside the artery. As the velocity of blood increases, the pressure here will decrease. Due to this, more pressure will act on this artery at that particular construction. So due to this, the activity of the heart will still increase. That means heart will try to pump this blood through that small passage. Due to this, heart will do more work. So as heart is doing more work, the blood through this small passage will try to flow through this one. So as a result, what happens? The velocity of the blood through this construction increases to a great value. So whenever velocity increases, the pressure at that point will decrease. So due to this, the pressure in the artery decreases further. So whenever this pressure inside the artery decreases to a small value, the external pressure will dominate on the artery. So due to this, this will collapse. So this will become very, very narrow. Whenever the area decreases, the velocity will increase according to law of continuity. A1 V1 is equal A2 V2. Whenever area decreases, the velocity will increase. Whenever velocity increases, the pressure inside the artery decreases. Whenever pressure inside the artery decreases, the external pressure will increase. Actually, external pressure will not increase. Because of the decrease in pressure, this will dominate this one. That's why it will become narrow and narrow. So due to this collapsing, so due to repeated collapsing, heart will try to pump more and more blood. That means it will do more and more work to send this blood through this construction. Due to this, heart may stop one day. So that we call it as a heart attack. Dynamic lift. The upward force acting on a body due to its motion in a fluid. So upward force acting on a body due to its motion in a fluid is known as dynamic lift. Here, for example, let me take a ball which is moving horizontally with a velocity v. So while it is moving, generally what happens, the streamlines of air is also a fluid. So this is the streamlines of air. But what about the streamlines here? So this will try to move in this small gap. This will try to move in this small gap. This will try to move in this gap. This will try to move in this gap. So due to this, you can see the pattern of the streamlines of air above the ball is similar to the pattern of the streamlines of air below the ball. So here, the velocity of this one is, let us say, V air. Velocity of these streamlines also will become V air. So velocity remains same on the top of the ball as well as bottom of the ball. So velocity remains constant. Now, when this happens, there is no velocity difference here. That means the kinetic energy of the air above the ball is equal to the kinetic energy of the air below the ball. According to Bernoulli's theorem, P plus half rho V square plus rho G H is equal to constant. So whenever the velocity is constant, the pressure remains constant, because from ground level, this point as well as this point are almost at the same height. Let us say this is 10.2 meters and this will be around 10.3 meters. There is not much difference between these 2 points. That's why height almost remains constant. So as the velocity is constant, pressure above the ball and pressure below the ball remains constant. So here KE1, this is KE2, this is P1, this is P2. So as there is no change in kinetic energy, there is no change in pressure energy. Now, suppose if the ball is not moving along a straight line, let us say it is rotating like this. When the ball is rotating like this, then for a spinning ball, same, let me take the spinning ball here. So this is the ball which is moving with a velocity as well as it is spinning about its own axis like this. Now, what are the streamlines here? When it is spinning, generally the surface of the ball will be rough. So this rough surface will drag the air with it. So the pattern of the streamlines below the ball remains as it is like this. But this streamline will be dragged by the ball, so it will flow like this. So this is the pattern of the streamlines above the ball and below ball. You can see this one. Within this area, more air is trying to pass over it because of the dragging of air with the surface of the ball. That means the ball will drag the air with its surface. Here, if you compare the bottom, so let me take this point as 2, this point as 1. As the area is less here, within the small area, more streamlines are passing to this one. So according to law of continuity, V1 is greater than the velocity at this point V2. Now, by applying this Bernoulli's theorem, wherever velocity is more, the pressure energy will be less. So due to this, what happens? The pressure energy here is P1, pressure energy here is P2. So out of these two, what we can write? V1 greater than V2 and P1 less than P2. So as the air velocity is more above the ball, pressure energy will be less, here pressure energy will be more. So there is a pressure difference between point 1 and point 2. This pressure difference will create a force. We know that pressure is equal to force by area. So force is equal to pressure into area. Here, what is the force that is acting on the ball here? This force is given by the pressure difference into area of that ball. You can see this in cricket, while especially when spinners are spinning. So this is the bowler and he is bowling this one. So when he is bowling here from this crease, this is the batsman who is facing this here what happens generally, if the bowler throws this ball without spinning the ball, if he just releases it, generally what happens, it will go like this and it will reach the batsman in this direction. But when the bowler spins this ball, when the bowler is spinning this one, what happens? The upper surface, that means above the upper surface of the ball, the streamlines will be nearer to each other. Due to this, velocity of the air above the ball will more. So, but velocity below the ball will be less. Due to this, a pressure will create at the bottom. So this pressure is greater than the pressure acting this one. So due to this, it will get some upward force. That upward force which is acting on a body due to the motion of the fluid through is called a dynamic lift. So here, for a fast bowler, generally ball moves in this direction and then it moves in this. But for a spinner, as is going to spin this ball, due to spinning, a upward thrust will be produced there. So this ball will move in this path and moves like this. So it will move in a parabolic path. So this is called effect of the ball within this fluid or the dynamic lift produced in this one due to the motion of the ball or spinning is called a Magnus effect. So what is the Magnus effect? The dynamic lift produced in a spinning ball is known as Magnus effect. So to get more revolutions, to get more turn from the pitch, the bowler has to spin the ball more. So due to this, what happens? He will be able to create the pressure difference below and above the ball. So due to this pressure difference, a force will act in the upward direction. So the pressure difference into area is called a dynamic lift. Here you can see in live telecasts, the fielders use it to rub the ball on their jerseys. So while they are rubbing this ball, whenever the surface of the ball is rough, it can drag more air. When it is able to drag more air, so this when the more air is dragged by this ball, the velocity will be more there, pressure will be less. So the bowler is able to create that dynamic lift on the ball so that he can flight the ball more, so it can spin viciously so that to confuse the batsman. Dynamic lift can also be explained in case of a airplane or aerofoil. So this is aeroplane wing of an aeroplane. Generally, if you take the aeroplane, so this is the aeroplane, this is the cross section, side view of the aeroplane. Here you can see the wing of the aeroplane. So it will have two wings on both sides. At that side I am not going to draw here, but this side, the shape of the wing will be like this. This is the cross section. Now, when it is moving in the forward direction, what about the streamlines of air on this wing? Here generally these streamlines will follow like this. So they will move in this direction. Air is moving in the opposite direction to the aeroplane. So these lines will travel, streamlines will travel like this. So just similar to that spinning ball. Here the streamlines are crowded together above the aeroplane wing. So the shape of the aeroplane will be made such that the velocity of the air above the wing is always much greater than the velocity of the streamlines below the wing. Here let me take once again, this is 1 and 2. So the shape of the aeroplane wing is such that it will induce more velocity to the streamlines above the wing. So here V1 greater than V2. Whenever velocity above the wing is more, then the pressure above the wing will be less and the pressure at the bottom of the aeroplane wing will be more. Due to this pressure difference, one dynamically, that means one force will act on the aeroplane which keeps the weight of the aeroplane in equilibrium. That means the total weight of the aeroplane mg is acting downwards, and this is equal and opposite to the dynamic lift produced by the pressure difference of the streamlines above and below the wing. So this is given by force is equal to the pressure difference into area of this wing. That's why this F is given by the pressure difference is the downward pressure, that means the force acting upwards, the pressure acting upwards, which is below the wing. This is P2 minus P1 into A. So if it is equal to weight of the aeroplane mg, then this aeroplane is said to be in equilibrium. So by creating this velocity, higher velocity above the wing, it is able to produce that required dynamic lift to keep the aeroplane in the equilibrium. Viscosity is just like a frictional force between two solid surfaces. Now, suppose if you take a liquid here, so this is a glass plate, this is one more glass plate which is placed on this one. This glass plate is fixed here, whereas this glass plate is moving with this liquid. Now, if it is, let us say, some coconut oil, it moves with some velocity. If it is petrol, then the velocity of this one will be different. If it is diesel, if it is some other oil, groundnut oil, whenever this liquid changes, the velocity, here it is as it is fixed, but this will move on the surface of this one. Now, the velocity of this one depends upon the nature of this one, nature of the liquid in contact with this one. If the upper layer of this liquid is moving with the velocity v, then this glass plate also moves with the same velocity. Let us say this velocity is equal to 12 meter per second, then this will also move with 12 meter per second. Whenever the liquid changes, the velocity of this one will change. Now, here instead of this one, suppose if you keep some honey, which is more viscous, if you keep honey, then the velocity will decrease. Let us say this is 3 meter per second. Why? Because the velocity of the upper surface of the honey is also 3 meter per second. So due to this, this velocity is based on the velocity of this liquid. Now, here what is happening? Let us say this is A, this is B, C and D. So these are the 4 points that we are going to use here. It is found that after some time this will change to E and this will change to F. This position is F. Now in this case what happens, you can see the height of this liquid column is L, liquid is L, and the change in the position of this point, let us say this is along x-axis delta x. In solids also we discussed this one. If you keep a book and if you apply tangential force on the upper surface, the book pages will change in this pattern. So this is called a tangential or shear strain. So which is given by change in the position of this one by height of this one, which is given by delta x by L. So this is called shear strain. It is found that the shear strain, the rate of shear strain, that is delta x by L into delta t. This is called rate of shear strain. So this quantity is directly proportional to the shear force or tangential force acting on it. So according to Hooke's law, stress directly proportional to strain. Here stress directly proportional to rate of shear strain. So this is a shear stress or tangential stress acting on this one. So this I am going to write F by A, this is tangential strain, directly proportional to the rate of shear strain. This is delta x by L into delta t. So what is this delta x by delta t? The rate at which this dx is changing with respect to time. So we can call it as a velocity. So force per unit area directly proportional to velocity by length, and force by area is equal to some constant eta. So this is a word, we have to read this as ETA, eta V by L. So from this eta, this is called coefficient of viscosity. So how to define the coefficient of viscosity? So eta can be written as the tangential stress by the rate of shearing strain, that is F by A by V by L. So this is a coefficient of viscosity. So whenever there is a new physical quantity, we need to write the SI unit as well as a dimensional formula for this one. So here, what is the SI unit? You can see this one, force is measured in Newton, area is measured in meter square, by velocity measured in meter per second, by length meter. So this meter per second by meter, when it goes up, meter by meter per second. So now you can cancel this m and m here. So this will become Newton per second meter power minus, when it goes up. So Newton second meter power minus 2. So this is a SI unit of coefficient of viscosity. Now what about the dimensional formula? So this is force by area, force ml T minus 2 area L square. This is velocity by length. When it goes up, this will become length by velocity L T minus 1. This L and L get cancelled. This 1 and 1 L get cancelled. This will become m power 1 L power minus 1 T power 1 minus. So this is the dimensional formula. Now if you take a pipe in which a liquid is flowing here, in this case generally the liquid which is in contact with the solid surface will have the same velocity. Here solid is at rest, the surface of the pipe is at rest. So the velocity of the liquid which is flowing here, generally this velocity nearly equal to 0. It will try to stick to the solid. Similarly this layer also which is in contact with the pipe will generally at rest. Now this velocity also negligible or nearly equal to 0. So that's why this liquid will have more velocity when compared to the other liquid layers. So now the pattern of the liquids will be like this. That means you can see this will follow the same thing. That means these layers will travel in this direction. So in this case the liquid layers which are trying to move in the forward direction will be opposed by the liquid layers relative to it. Suppose if you take this layer, let me take this 1, 2, 3. In the third layer, the upper surface will try to move this in the forward direction, while the lower layer, fourth one, will try to drag this one in the opposite direction. So this dragging force between these two is called viscous force. It is just like the frictional force between the two surfaces solid surfaces. In solid surface also, the force that opposes the relative motion between two bodies in contact is called frictional force. So what is viscosity? The force that opposes the relative motion between two layers in contact is known as viscosity. Stokes law, whenever a body falling through a fluid, so when it is falling through fluid, this is the fluid layers. So when it is falling, it drags the layers of this fluid with it. That means it will drag this one down. But it is moving slowly, this is also moving slowly, this is also moving slowly, but it will move with high speed. As the speed of this one is more, then it will drag this one. So there is a relative motion between this first layer as well as second layer. Due to this relative motion, there exists a force which always opposes the motion of this one, and this we call it as a viscous force. The viscous force is found to be directly proportional to the velocity of this body with which it is falling through this fluid. So F directly proportional to V. So now if you write this one, F is equal to some constant into V, and that constant is found to be 6 times of pi eta and RV. So this is called Stokes law. So Stokes law gives an equation which is the viscous force that is passing through a fluid, viscous force of a body passing through a fluid is given by 6 pi eta Vr. So 6 is a constant, pi is a constant, eta is a coefficient of viscosity of this fluid, and V is the velocity of this body, and R is the radius of this body. Now, if suppose if you take a raindrop, when a raindrop is falling, actually it is falling from a great height. So this is a raindrop which is falling from a great height on the surface of earth. We know that for a freely falling body, the velocity of the body is going to be root over 2gh. G is equal to 9.8, h is equal to some height here, maybe from 2 or 3 kilometers. This velocity should be too high. But this raindrop is not falling with this velocity. This velocity changes as it enters into the atmosphere, and air molecules try to oppose the motion of this raindrop. So due to this, it will experience the viscous force, and the viscous force experienced by this raindrop in this air molecules is given by, once again, 6 pi eta RV, where V is the velocity of the raindrop at that particular point. So after that, what happens? due to the viscous force which is acting opposite to this V. Viscous force always acts opposite to the direction of the velocity of this body, in the opposite direction. So that's why the velocity gradually decreases, and finally the raindrop will get some velocity which we call it as a terminal velocity. Now, how to find the terminal velocity of raindrop in air? So, when it is falling here, what are the forces acting on this raindrop? The first one is the weight of the raindrop is acting vertically downwards. So, this is mg. The viscous force is acting upwards, F viscous force. Now, as it is falling through air, a buoyancy force will also act up this one. So, this is called buoyancy force, buoyant force. So, if the sum of these two forces is exactly equal to the weight of the body, then the net force experienced by the raindrop will become 0. So, I am going to write this one. Upward forces are F viscous plus F buoyancy force is equal to weight of this raindrop or any body which is falling through this fluid. Viscous force formula 6 pi eta RV plus buoyancy force. This is the generally if a body is placed in water, what is the buoyancy force? Weight of the water displaced by this body. Here weight of the air displaced by this raindrop, which is given by weight of the air displaced, that is mg of the air displaced is equal to mg of that raindrop. Now, we can write this as 6 pi eta RV plus what is mass here? Mass of the air displaced, that is density into volume. Generally, we wrote density of liquid rho, volume of the fluid displaced, air displaced is V into G. This is equal to sigma into Vg, where sigma is the density of raindrop. Here I am going to take this as sigma density of raindrop. So from this we can cancel this one V. So first let me write this as 6 pi eta RV. This is rho. What is the volume of the air displaced by this raindrop, which is exactly equal to the volume of the raindrop. We know that raindrops are sphericals. So what is the volume of sphere? So this is 4 by 3 pi r cube into G is equal sigma into, this is also 4 by 3 pi r cube into G. You can cancel this r here, one r will cancel r square, one more and will cancel r square. So now I need to find out the velocity. That velocity is known as the terminal velocity, the velocity with which the raindrop is falling. So I am going to find out this velocity here. So bring this term this side, you will get 6 pi eta V terminal velocity. This is the terminal velocity of this raindrop, which is given by sigma 4 by 3 pi r square G minus rho 4 by 3 pi r square G. You can cancel this pi here. I need only Vt, that is terminal velocity. Here you can take 4 by 3 r square G common, sigma minus rho by, this will become 6 eta. So this will become 2 2s, 2 3s. So the terminal velocity is given by 2 by 9 r square G sigma minus rho by this eta, 3 3s are 9. So this is the expression for terminal velocity of a raindrop falling through a fluid. Now this terminal velocity depends on dash. You can see this equation. The terminal velocity is given by Vt is equal 2 is a constant, 9 is a constant, r square is a variable. Whenever radius of the raindrop increases, terminal velocity will increase. G constant, and this is a sigma is the density of raindrop and rho is the density of air by eta viscosity, quotient of viscosity of rain. So this is not only for raindrop, for any solid body which is traveling through a fluid can have this terminal velocity. So this terminal velocity is given by this formula. So V terminal velocity directly proportional to square of the radius of this body. So now remember, while deriving this equation, always I am considering a spherical body here. So for any spherical body which is falling through a fluid, the terminal velocity always directly proportional to square of its radius. Number. So this is a number that will decide whether the flow is streamline or turbulent. So this number will decide the nature of the fluid flow. So here the Reynolds number is given by, this is RE, it's a number only, which is given by rho V d by eta. So what is this rho? Is the density of the fluid, V is the velocity, d is the diameter or the dimensions of the pipe through which this liquid is flowing. Let us say through a pipe of diameter d, a fluid is coming here and its density is rho and its velocity is v. Now if you know the coefficient of viscosity of this fluid flowing through this pipe, then if you multiply this rho Vd and divide with the coefficient of viscosity, you will get a number. So this number generally lies between 0 to around, it may be around 3000 or 4000. Now it is found that if the Reynolds number is less than 1000, it is found that this fluid is having streamline flow. So this is a streamline flow. Now if R is greater than 2000 and this is seems to be turbulent flow. So this is a streamline flow. Suppose if the Reynolds number lies between 1000 to 2000, if RV less than 2000 but greater than 1000, then this is a unsteady flow. So this is neither streamline nor turbulent. So this is known as unsteady flow. Now based on these numbers, we can decide whether the fluid is having the turbulent or streamline flow. But before this, suppose if you take a fluid which is passing through a pipe or a canal or something. Now one more test is there. If you take a thread, if you keep a thread here, if thread moves in this direction, in a single direction, then it seems to be the streamline flow. If a thread comes in this direction, that means whirlpools may take place, eddies may take place, then because of the velocity, the difference between the velocity, we can decide the flow as a streamline flow and a turbulent flow. If velocity changes rapidly, rapid change in velocity, then we call it as turbulent flow. Then the string may have different structures, it may get different structures. Due to this, we can decide this flow as turbulent flow, and this is called a thread test. Reynolds number rho Vd by neta, multiply this with velocity and divide with velocity, you will get Re as rho V square by neta V by d. And if you multiply with the area and area, you will get Re is equal to rho V square A by neta AV by d. So we know that viscous force F is equal to 6 pi neta RV. Here area is pi d square cancel, this will become pi r square. So from this we can write this is a density into square of the velocity into area. So this is nothing but internal force by this is a viscous force. So why it is internal force? Viscous force is, you can see this one. Here viscous force F is equal to pi neta RV. This is neta V by d. This area can be written as pi d square neta V by d. dd get cancelled. So you will get pi neta dv. Here radius, here radius only, I am taking the radius only because d is the dimensions of the pipe. So I am going to get the same F here, viscous force. But what about this one? Here if you see, rho v square A, density is equal to mass by volume. This is velocity into area. But volume is nothing but area into length. This area get cancelled. This will become mv v by L. So this is mass into velocity is momentum. This is v by L. So we know that force is rate of change of momentum. So this is P. We can write this as m P. This is L by L into velocity is distance by time. So once again this L by L get cancelled. This is P by T. So what is this P by T? The rate at which the momentum is changing is nothing but internal force. That's why Reynolds number can be written as the force, that is internal force divided by viscous force. As this is a ratio between two different forces, it has no unit and no dimension formula. It is just a number, and that number, by finding this number, we can find whether the flow is turbulent, streamlined or unsteady flow. Now, if you take some water in a pipe of radius d, and in the similar pipe, if you take some oil, this is oil, this is water. So these two are traveling or flowing through the same pipes, and they have different densities. This is the density of water, density of oil, and their velocities may be same and d same. As the viscosity changes, viscosity is different for this one, but it is found that both flows will become turbulent at the same number, almost at the same number. That's why Reynolds number is used for any liquid, whether it is viscous or non-viscous. We can find whether the flow is turbulent or not. Similarly, if you take these race cars, generally they will be designed like this. Aeroplanes front portion are streamlined here. So these are all due to decrease the viscous force produced on this one, produced due to the fluid that is flowing. So this is the air. Air will oppose the motion of these bodies, these ships or race cars as well as these aeroplanes. Here, the work done against this fluid to move through this fluid will come out in the form of heat energy. So actually it has kinetic energy. Whenever kinetic energy increases, we know that this formula F is equal to 6 by eta RV. Whenever velocity increases, viscous force increases. As these race cars or aeroplanes travels with a large speed, they have large velocity, therefore large kinetic energy. So this sum of this kinetic energy converts into heat energy. So to decrease the amount of heat that dissipated in this process, the front portions are streamlined to decrease this viscous force.